Okay, the first thing you need to know is that chords are made up of individual tones out of a scale. These are called chord tones. And when you look at the chord changes of a particular form or a song or something that you're going to improvise over, it's really helpful to know what notes are in what chord. When you play a note in that chord as part of your improvisation, the sound becomes very consonant to what you're trying to do. In other words, it makes it sound like you know what's going on by you reflecting the harmony in the chords in your note choices as a performer and soloist. This helps you have a real what you call inside sound, which is good when you're starting out because you want to sound like you're making good sounds and confident in the sounds that you're making. Let's take a minute and look at how we can find these chord tones when we identify a chord. The first chord you'll see is a B flat 7 chord. To find a notes out of a 7 chord, or a dominant 7 chord as it's called, you'll need to know, for starters, a major scale. So what we're going to do is listen to the notes of this B flat major scale. Notice I just played the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8th note of the scale, and the 8th and the 1 are the same note, the B flat. So what you want to do to get a dominant 7 is you want to take the 1, the 3, the 5, and then the 7, but you want to make it flat one note. So instead of A natural, we'll take an A flat. When you hear it together, it makes that chord, that B flat dominant 7. It's so easy to do it this way that I think we need to take some time and make some other dominant 7 chords that we're going to see. Okay, let's try the same thing in E flat. So in the E flat scale we have E, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, and E flat. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the 1, E flat, 3, G, 5, B flat, and 7, D flat. Notice we have the flat 7. It was D natural. We're going to make it that dominant 7, so we have to lower it a half step. That gives us our E flat 7 chord. Practice playing these notes up and down like that, just to kind of get it in your ear. Okay, now let's do the same thing with F. So we have F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, and F in an F major scale. Once again, we're going to take 1, 3, 5, then that 7 down a half step. So instead of an E natural, now it's an E flat. So we got a F, A, C, and an E flat. It's all concert pitch, of course. This gives us an F7 chord. Now, if you don't have your instrument in concert pitch, like if you play a trumpet or a sax, that's okay. Just hold on and you'll see these notes come alive in your own clef and own transposition here in a bit. Okay, let's find one more. Let's do G7. So we have G is 1, A would be 2, B natural is 3, C is 4, D natural is 5, E natural is 6, F sharp is 7, and then G. So we're going to take 1, G, 3, B, 5 would be D. Then that 7th scale degree down a half step, instead of F sharp, now we have F natural. So you put all that together, and you get a G7 chord. Another chord you'll need to learn how to spell is a minor 7 chord. You'll see this often as like -7 or min7. This is a different kind of chord quality. We can still refer to a major scale to help spell it though. So let's try to spell a C minor 7 chord. So we'll have a C, D, all naturals. So we're going to do now, instead of just lowering the seventh a half step, we're also going to lower the third a half step. So we'll have C for our 1. The third will be E flat instead of E natural. Then the fifth will stay the same. And then our B will also go down a half step to B flat, and then it gets a minor 7 quality now. Sounds very different. It's because the intervals that make up this chord are a little bit different than one that made up our dominant 7 chord or our 7th chord. Notice the minor 7 chord has a minor third, and the dominant 7 chord had a major third. Okay, let's do what I call some see and say jazz exercises. These are basically where we're going to play the different chord tones in each chord over the blues progression. So for instance, to start, we're going to play nothing but the roots of each chord, or the 1 of each chord. For instance, if it's a B flat 7 chord, you'll play a B flat. If it's a C minor chord, well, you play a C. It's very easy. You play just the root. And then we're going to try the thirds, and then the 5th of every chord, and then the 7ths of every chord. This is a great exercise. This will help you keep track of each note as it belongs in each chord, and it will really give you a strong ear for the form. In the following musical examples, you'll see that there are 4 lines. The top line in E flat is for the alto sax and the bari sax. The second to top line will be in B flat for the trumpet and the tenor sax. The top line of the grand staff or the piano staff could be for the piano, as well as the guitar, as well as like a flute or any other instrument that reads in C. And the bottom, the bass clef of the piano, could be for the left hand of the piano, or maybe a trombone or another instrument that reads in C but in bass clef. The most important chord tones to learn from each chord are the 3rd and the 7th. They do the most work as far as pulling the chord towards the next chord or leading the sound of one chord to the next. You'll often notice that the 3rds and 7ths of one chord go to a 7 or a 3rd of the next chord. The next 2 examples explore that sound. Look at the smooth voice leading and the smooth motion between every chord. Notice how I can get from chord to chord in this example without having to move very far. Try it, listen to it, and internalize the sound. Arpeggio in Italian literally means broken chord. And what we have here are all the chord tones of these 7 chords played in arpeggio up then back down. Learn this pattern and get it memorized really good. They're harder to play, so you don't want to just be reading. Don't be reading these all the time. Get them memorized so you really know them and can play them by memory. I have the track in a slow version as well as a quicker one. That way you can have plenty of time to get the notes under your fingers and not feel like you're in a rush. Okay, the next example uses a technique called a chromatic leading tone. These are chromatic notes that are a half step away from a chord tone. So you have the 1, 3, 5, and 7, the chord tones that we've learned over each chord. If you go a half step above or below and then quickly resolve back to the chord tone, you'll get this chromatic leading tone idea. You'll see what I mean. Check out the following places in the next example for these chromatic leading tones. The measure 1 on the and of 4, the measure 2 on the and of 4, and measure 4 on the and of 4. You'll notice that all of these points all lead to beat 1 of the next measure to where it resolves to a chord tone. So these are anticipated chromatic leading tones. The last 2 measures feature a turnaround. These are very important. They're the quickest way that you can show somebody that's listening to you improvise that you know what's going on. These last 2 bars have the most chords. They have 4 chords and 2 bars, and they move quickly and they have a lot of chromatic motion. There's a lot of potential to hit a lot of wrong notes. So if you really know what's going on and you can outline these chords effectively, it really makes your improvisation sound super strong. Try to memorize as many turnarounds as I'm going to give you from here now to the rest of the lesson, and get them under your fingers just so you can have them on ready and pull them out. I challenge you to learn 12 different turnarounds of this, what you call 1-6-2-5 turnaround. Learn them in the key of B flat first, and then you can transpose them to other keys in the future.